Whoa.
What's up everyone? Before we begin this video, I just want to thank Lenovo Yoga for sponsoring this video. We're going to be editing both videos using the new Yoga 7i, which is actually a 2-in-1 computer and tablet. We'll talk a little bit more about that later on in this video. So the first video that I'm going to be breaking down is going to be my running phone transitions. It was just one transition where we had Allie run into a puddle and we used the splash of the puddle to create a transition and used a water bottle to create the next scene of the other half of the splash to create the illusion that it was just one smooth motion. Then after that, I'm going to show you guys how I edited my underwater phone transitions video, which was a little more dynamic. There was a lot more that went into it, so it'll be fun to kind of break down both of them and yeah, show you guys exactly how I edit. Let's go ahead and start with the first video. This was actually my best performing video that I've ever had in my life. I think it has over 150 million views on TikTok right now and over 30 some million on Instagram Reels. I actually almost didn't even post this video. I almost redid the whole thing because I didn't think it was good enough. Okay, so first things first, we have the scene of Allie running. We filmed this on our phone at 240 frames a second. If you're looking to shoot something similar, I would say anything above 120 frames will probably get you very similar results. So let's take this frame by frame, and right here it gets really blurry. So that is the spot that I want to cut our take at, and I'm just going to erase everything after that. Okay, so now let's take a look at this second take. Right here we have Allie running, so we don't need any of that first part. I would say maybe someplace right about there. That looks pretty good. And then we'll just erase everything before that. So watching this playback at full speed, it already is starting to look like a pretty cool transition. So obviously we filmed a little bit too close to my friend's hand. So we're gonna have to get rid of that real quick. So to get rid of that is gonna be super simple. All we need to do is zoom the clip in. Now, I'm not gonna just zoom it in until his hand disappears. I'm gonna zoom it in almost till it disappears, and then I'm gonna position my video a little bit higher so we can probably even zoom out a little bit more. The reason I do that is because I want to scale my video in as least as possible. The more you zoom or scale your video in, the more it's going to degrade the quality. So we really want to keep that as low as possible, especially when filming on a phone. There, that looks great. Step one, we've gotten rid of the hand. Good job. Let's go to step two. So now I'm going to right click on it and I'm going to go down all the way into the bottom and click Show Clip Keyframes, Time Remapping, and Speed. So what we're doing now is a thing called speed ramping. Since we filmed this at 240 frames a second, that means we can change the playback speed to about 15% of the original take. Here is where it's gonna get a little bit more tricky. We're gonna add keyframes in. This is basically telling the computer when we want to play the video fast and when we want to play it slow. So let's go ahead and start this clip off very, very quickly. We want to show it running and then slowing down for that transition. And real quick, I'm just going to erase all of this audio. All of that is pretty much useless. It doesn't sound that good. And we're going to add fake audio effects in later, so we don't have to worry about any of that. Okay, so we get that pretty much done. We come into that transition, comes through. Simple as that. Okay, so now to make things a little bit more spicy, let's go ahead and add an adjustment layer. If you're not familiar with what an adjustment layer is, basically it's a video layer that you can apply effects to, which affects everything underneath of it. So what we're going to be using it for in this video is going to be to color correct it and also add some blur. So I'm going to go ahead and add my peak blurriness right at the center of the cut of the transition, and then I'm going to take this back to about there, and I'm going to turn off the blur. So what these keyframes are going to do is slowly make it more blurry so you can't really tell that the effect is even there. I like that a lot more. That looks really good. So this video really doesn't need too much more, but there is one more vital thing that I almost left out, and that is sound design. So sound design is one of the most important things to do when creating epic transitions and just any type of film in general. If you really think about it, a video is only 50% video. Whenever you're watching any kind of film, 90% of the time you're not just watching the video, you're hearing the audio as well. So it's really a 50-50% balance between the video and the audio. Right here I have a sound effect that I found on YouTube that's just a royalty-free puddle sound effect. So I'll just go ahead and delete the rest. So I want to start that sound effect right when the shoe hits the water. right like that. I think that pretty much wraps it all up for this video. Here is the final result. Okay, so before we get started on the underwater phone transitions video edit, let's take a second to talk about the Lenovo Yoga 7i. So Lenovo sent me this laptop a few weeks ago, and I've had the chance to test it out and use it as my computer for the last couple weeks now. And it's been a lot of fun. So probably the coolest thing about this computer is that it actually is a 2-in-1 computer and tablet. The screen rotates back and forth between horizontal, and if you want to do vertically, it'll flip to that as well. Honestly, I don't video edit too much in the tablet mode just because I love using the keyboard as much as possible to use all my shortcuts and stuff. But I will say for photo editing, this is fun. It's so much more fun just hopping down on the couch or somewhere and just getting some photo editing done, which by the way, this whole thing is touchscreen as well, which is pretty cool because then you can just do everything with your hands and it's just a lot more user-friendly that way. This laptop is also very thin, fits nice and easy in the back of my camera backpack, which is great because it's small and light enough that you can just take this thing anywhere you want to. So let's talk about battery life. So the Lenovo Yoga 7i uses this charger. It just looks like a regular everyday laptop charger, but it's not. So the cool thing about it is that it can actually charge your laptop up to 80% in just 30 minutes. You can just plug it in, pack all your stuff up, and get out the door. Is super, super important. For what I've been editing it for, it's been running very well. It also has a cool little fingerprint login, so you don't have to type in your password every time, which is just another little small feature that I love. So if you're interested or want to learn more about the Lenovo Yoga 7i, I'll link everything you need to know in the description box below. Make sure you check them out. But anyway, let's get started on the second video edit. The only thing I had to do for this first transition was cut both the takes where the phone goes underwater. So instead of using this first take where Allie goes underwater right there, we crop it right here so it goes under and she's in a different location where we had the next transition with the bubbles already set up and ready to go. That one looks pretty good already. So now I want to speed ramp this again. I want Allie to dive under the water and then everything goes slow motion. As you guys can see, that does not look good at all. So how we're going to fix this is we're going to speed ramp it to play faster at the end of the take. Okay, so now it goes slow motion and then it speeds back up at the end. This is gonna help it transition a lot quicker, which is gonna be harder for the viewer's eye to catch that the transition's happening. So let's go ahead and cut the end off again, and we'll start this next clip off nice and fast. So now that shot 2 ends quickly, we want to make sure that shot 3 begins quickly as well. So it's going to go from Allie slow motion under the water, speed back up for the bubble transition, and then slow down to capture some of those smaller bubbles and Allie swimming up. And then we'll probably speed ramp that up again one more time. So already that looks so much better. You can hardly tell what point shot 2 ends at and what shot 3 begins at. So there's one more thing preventing this transition from being just a perfect seamless transition. And that is the color change from this tealish blue to this nice dark blue. Personally, I like the dark blue a lot better than the teal, so I'm gonna go ahead and change the colors of the teal to make it look more dark blue so it matches the third take rather than taking this third take and trying to match the colors of the second take. I'm gonna add a color adjustment tool straight onto this individual clip since we only wanna be focusing on this clip and its colors. And the first thing I'm gonna do is mess around with the temperature. So already that looks much better, but I think the hues could be a little bit better. So what we're gonna do is just barely pull this down, and I actually want to affect some of the darker blues as well, make those a little bit more dark. Now what I want to do is zoom in this third shot a little bit. There's so much happening up here, even though the focus of our shot is Allie swimming up. So I really want to make sure that I try my best to keep her as much as I can in the center of the frame. So let's see how that looks now, if that affected our transition at all and what that looks like. So I like that a lot. I think that looks a lot better. Now let's move on to the final transition. So I'm gonna go frame by frame again, finding the point of which this transitions into this fourth and final shot of Allie flicking her hair in the water. Right about there probably looks good. And that looks pretty good. So let's go ahead and speed ramp this one again. We'll go through here and then just play that nice and slow, bring that back down to 15% so we can really see that water flicking off her hair. So this scene is also quite a bit overexposed. So I'm just gonna bring the highlights and the whites way down. Here's what it looked like before, now it's after. Now let's go back to our color hue. We wanna change the greens, the cyans, the teals, and we want to make those look more blue. So now I'm pulling in some whoosh sound effects. Just a little whoosh can really amplify the transition. So on top of that, I'm gonna drag in some nature sound effects. I'll play those in the first scene and the last. That way you can kind of hear some of these birds, then it'll go underwater. You got the whoosh sound effects with the bubbles, whooshes out, and then plays more of the nature sound effects. And then after all of that, I'll go ahead and add some bubble sound effects and kind of smooth everything out a little bit more. Here is what the final product looked like. Again, if you guys want to check out the Lenovo Yoga 7i, make sure to, in the description below, there'll be a link and everything you guys need to know there. But that's pretty much it for this video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.